Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to another book review. So, in Kim Soom's One Left, translated by Bruce and Ju-Chan Fulton, a 93-year-old unnamed woman in a condemned neighborhood watches news of the last publicly known survivor of a wartime crime fading into memory. She must decide whether to break a lifetime of silence. So, I'm going to talk about how this novel braids memory, shame, and witness into a stark and necessary act of remembrance. So, hello, I'm Barry. This is Soul Book Club, and today I'm reviewing One Left by Kim Soom, like I said, translated by Bruce and Ju-Chan Fulton. It was first published in Korea in 2016. The English edition appeared in 2020 with some support from the Literature Translation Institute of Korea. And I've reviewed a few Kim Soom short stories, and there's actually like a book club session where Kim Soom was present that you can find on the channel. And Kim Soom actually has quite a prolific output. And she actually did a series of novels about the so-called comfort women, the Korean comfort women. And so it's these are important books and an important series of books. And of course, I've also reviewed several books by the Fultons, who are very highly regarded translators with long careers at this point. So, for example, they also translated Chon Eun-young's Catcher in the Loft and Mina by Park Sa-gwa. And they do a typically excellent job with this translation. They render the novel in very clear and resonant English. And even though this is a work of fiction, this novel does draw on, of course, real historical events. So, comfort women is a term which a lot of people have a problem with. It's kind of like the when they talk about grooming gangs in Britain. That's not really what they're referring to, right? So, comfort women is a euphemism for the more than 200,000 Korean girls that were forced into sexual slavery in Japanese military brothels during World War II. And they were held in these extremely brutal so-called comfort stations across various occupied territories. And only about 10% seem to have survived and returned to Korea. Many of whom have essentially lived lives as social outcasts. And even as survivors have come forward, their testimonies and calls for compensation have largely been denied by the Japanese government. So this is a novel about a fictional comfort woman that reveals some of the truths about the lives of the real comfort women. And so, how does Kim Soom begin this book and tell the story of these women? So, the novel opens with an unnamed 93-year-old woman who's referred to during the course of the novel only as she. And she is living in a rundown neighborhood which has been slated for redevelopment. And as she watches the news one day, she learns that the last publicly known comfort woman, Yoon Kum-sil, is lying in a hospital near death. And in an interview, Yoon says she's holding on until another survivor steps forward and says, "I can't allow myself to die, not with no one after me to speak." And the report fills the protagonist with anguish. She has never revealed, not even to her family, that she was taken as a so-called comfort woman. And she's been silenced for decades by the shame of this. And now she's wondering whether to come forward to keep their story alive. So, how does the story develop? And what is Kim saying in this book about the lives of the comfort women? So, I've realized. Oh, wait a minute. One second. I've got the wrong script open here. Hold on one second. My apologies. It's extremely hot here. Not thinking straight. And okay. So okay, right. So sorry, how does the story develop? So we follow this unnamed old woman and she's struggling with the decision of what to do as she goes about her daily life in this extremely rundown neighborhood. And as she walks the streets and observes the neighbors that are still remaining in this neighborhood, many of the neighbors have left already, but some of them are still sort of holding on. Maybe they don't have anywhere else to go. But as she's sort of wandering these streets, she is reminded of her experiences as a young girl when she was essentially kidnapped while out collecting flowers. And she was only 13 years old when this happened. Two men just grabbed her. She didn't know these two men, and she was transported north to Manchuria and then into one of these comfort stations with a group of other girls. It's a deeply unpleasant reading experience, extremely upsetting. It's very difficult to imagine the actual horror of what these young women experienced. But Kim Soom describes their experiences in unflinching detail, and these sections are very challenging to read. I found myself having to take breaks. It's a very slim, short book, but it took me a while to get through. I just didn't want to pick it up. But the sections of the book in the stories present are also painfully sad. So we see the effects of these experiences and how they've cast a shadow over the rest of her long life. And we also get a sense of the neglect and lack of care that these survivors experience, that society doesn't want to deal with the trauma of these experiences. And so instead, society tries to ignore them and kind of put them from mind. So it is a very difficult and upsetting reading experience, but of course it's also a valuable one and an important one. But it is without doubt a painful book to read. We shouldn't forget these events, and this deeply sad novel, I think, helps readers see the trauma that these young women experience. But just keep in mind, it is a challenging read. So, Anime, do add one left to your TBR if you haven't read it, and hit the bell and all the rest of it. And take care. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next review.